I was in Singapore recently, and I was interviewing a person about what his company's strategic goals were.
This is one of my favorite stories, by the way. I like this.
Pardon me. Well, it's a fun story. And we were in a large atrium where I was doing the interview, and it was about 5 stories high. Behind me on this wall in the atrium were listed the 5 or 6 strategies of that, strategic goals of that organization. They were also listed on the name badge that the person had and on his chest. And so I got to ask him about that, and he said, you know, this is the thing that bothers me about this damned organization. Nobody ever tells us what the strategic goals are, or what's going on around here. And so I said, well, look over my shoulder and read what's on the wall. And he said, I'll be damned, when he saw what it was. And I said, look at your name badge, which he did. And the reality is, we find that everywhere we go. Organizations are printing these and they're putting them places, but the employees still don't know what those are. And we'll talk about that a little later as we move along. But let's go to the next question. Galen, what % of employees do not know what to do to support their organization's strategies and goals?
Okay, well, last time was a high number, so I'm guessing this time I'm going to jump up. I'm going to say like 55%.
Well, it's higher than that. Close, though.
Gee, I knew that.
70% say they do not know what to do to support their organization's strategies and goals. Let's ask another question. Number 3, what % of employees do not feel a strong commitment to their organization's strategies and goals?
So far I've been too low, so I'm going high this time. 90%.
Good attempt. 81% of employees said they do not feel a strong level of commitment. They don't know what the strategies are, and they do not feel committed to them or to their organizations. What % of employees are satisfied with the results of their work at the end of most weeks?
Well, I know this one. It's 87%. But I've always thought about this, and I thought, you know, it's not always a bad thing that people aren't satisfied. You know, we know that the best workers actually always know that they have more talent, more skill, more abilities than that are often used in the organization, and they know that a lot of those are being sucked up by fake work. So it's not a totally bad thing that it's 87%, but on the other hand, it's not a good thing that 87% aren't feeling very satisfied with what's going on in their organization.
Yeah, well, moving along, let's go to the next question. We were talking out in the hall before we came in to do this interview, this one. What % of employees indicate they worked harder this year than they did last year?
It's got to be high. I mean, everybody says it.
92% say they worked harder this year than last year. That's an interesting statistic in and of itself, but the bottom line is, for the last 10 years, every year, people go higher on that. They've said, we haven't had a year where they've said, no, I didn't work harder than I did last year. So they feel like there's pressure, there's other things happening that's causing people to work harder than they have in the past. The reality is there are only so many hours in a week, you know, on the job and off the job and other places for people to work. So we know it can't keep escalating, but people feel that it's escalating.
I think part of that's this culture that we've talked about, and so many people have brought up to us that it's that there are people who kind of don't ever think they stop work. They're doing their BlackBerries and their email and their you know, they're going on Facebook all day long, so they feel like their days are long and connected to their work from morning till from dusk to dawn or whatever, right? From morning to midnight.
Yeah.
And I think that it gives them the sense that they're working hard. But we know that the percentage of those people who tell us how hard and how many weekends they're working and how much sleep they're losing, the productivity isn't up.
Right.
And that the value of what they're contributing to their organizations isn't up at all.
Very good point. Productivity isn't up, but perception that we're working harder has definitely gone up. Well, let's summarize this off with one last question. What % of work totally in organizations is fake work?
I know the answer. It's 50%. But I think 2 surprises. One is that we very often see statistics in some organizations, or in many organizations, that are higher than that. So we are wondering if that's actually, it's less than, more than what we often see. And the number of people, and this was a big surprise to both of us, the number of people who tell us that they think that's low in their organization is astronomical. I mean, we hear it over and over and over again about how much waste and mismanagement and carelessness there is around their organization and whether they're doing real work or not.
Yeah. We quote 50%. The reality is, if we go back and redo our research, which we're in the process of doing, and re-looking that, we're going to find that it's higher than 50%.
So Brent, I have a question for you. Oh, you were going to...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so do you think you can get rid of 100, I mean, can you get rid of all the fake work? Can you make that 100% real work?
No, I don't think that's possible. I think there's a certain amount of work that's going to be fake work and that's not tied to strategy.
There's certain things you have to do. I mean, you have to.
Things.
I always say an organization has to pay taxes. It doesn't actually drive strategy. It doesn't actually improve the business, but you still have to do it. There's administrative stuff you have to do. You have to do financial stuff, and it doesn't necessarily lead to strategy. But there are sound strategies around finances and other things that are critical here. But no, I don't think we think you can get to 100% real work.
But if half the work that's being done is fake work, how can we solve that problem? What could we do that would make a difference? What we typically tell organizations is this: if we could get you to improve by 10%, that means reduce 10% of your fake work and replace that with real work, work that really makes a difference and helps the organization, then you're going to save that organization literally millions of dollars. Galen, you might want to talk to them a little bit about how much money would be saved if we did that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've played with numbers all the time, and we talk to companies all the time. What is this costing you? And the numbers are actually startling, because they say, well, yeah, if that was 10%, if we could save just 10%, do more real work at 10% of the time, and all of our workers improve that much, then, I mean, you take the general value of somebody making $58,000 a year or $38,000 a year, you're saving $3,800 in just in productivity, not necessarily in direct costs, but in productivity. But then you've got to factor in things like opportunity costs and the resources lost and the misuse of resources, and it's astronomical numbers. But if you had if you have 1,000 employees at that $58,000 10%, you're saving about almost $6 million a year just in direct productivity and value.
Well, the real interesting thing is when you start looking at small startup organizations that have lower salaries and fewer employees, and if you can change that by 10% and save that and move forward on it and help these organizations be more effective, it makes a tremendous difference in whether those organizations succeed or not. I mean, at one time I worked at a university where I was director of the Center for Entrepreneurship, and a 10% increase in real work would have saved many of those organizations. And we just really believe that that's what we should be looking at. We're not trying to get rid of all fake work. We'd like to. It's just that some of that's going to exist regardless of what happens in the organizations. And so here's what we're saying, to sum up to this point. We're saying this, that when employees align their work with their company's strategies and goals, which means they have to know the strategies and goals, then we find that real work occurs, and if you like to use the terminology that's around the world today, execution and productivity goes up.